as the description says, I'm going to be going over some of the main differences between Bloodborne and the rest of the Souls games. This is for those who have played Bloodborne because they thought the aesthetic was really great for them and trust the most fun games in the entirety of FromSoft's game history. But this is definitely directed towards those who want to begin playing Dark Souls but have not actually gotten a chance to, and they just want to see what they're going to be getting themselves into. So basically, to start, I'm sure that you've noticed, even just from the minimal amount of gameplay, is that everything is much, much slower. Whether or not you've only heard of this happening or known of this or anything like that, this game, the entire Souls games are very, very slow, other than Bloodborne. Bloodborne is really the only fast one, and there's a lot more that goes into the Souls games than there is in Bloodborne. Because of that. Like, for instance, there's not a whole lot of rolling attacks as there are with Bloodborne. You'll notice that I'm dual wielding. You can dual wield any weapon in the game pretty much as long as you have the right stats for it. It's very, very quick to get used to if you know how Bloodborne works, because the overall of the game is pretty much the same. All the controls are the same, except the healing is much, much different. In this one, as you saw earlier, it takes a lot longer, and down in the bottom there, you're going to see I only have 5 charges of it. You start the game with only 1, and as you progress through, you actually get more things to be able to unlock and be able to heal yourself up more. So because of that slow pacing, you have, and very minimal heals, you have to be much more careful about what you're doing and how you're going to be going into every fight. Every different... Oh, crap. Okay, there we go. Also, another thing to keep in mind is the amount of weapons in this game. There are so many weapons in this game. If you don't like one kind of moveset, you can move on to another one. There are different kinds of weapons that have different sets, or that have different movesets that you can use. However, like, these 2 weapons, a knife... Actually, I think this one's a sword. The different knives have the same movesets. Different swords, such as the thief sword right here, it's broken, has a different moveset. The short sword has a different moveset from the fire long sword. And then there's the other broken swords that I found. You can take a look at how they actually show as far as stats go. There's a whole ton of them, as you can see. Like, up where it says great sword, and then //thrust, //thrust. That's one kind of weapon, and it shares a moveset with any other weapon that has that kind of indication right there, aside from straight sword. Like, that one's a great sword, so it'll actually have a different moveset than the shorter one, which is just the straight sword. These two, the Flamberge and the Royal Greatsword, they're both the same, so they're going to share a moveset. The Mastodon Greatsword is also going to share a moveset, and so on. Then there's the Ultra Greatsword, which actually I'm wielding in my right hand, has its own different moveset. So you have the regular swords, the Great Swords, and the Ultra Great Swords. There's actually quite a number of them in the game as well. They're the hard hitters. They're the ones that are going to be doing most of the damage if you're a strength build like myself. Shit. Also, the lanterns are actually bonfires, and there's quick traveling to almost every other area in the game. One of the other main things that you need to keep in mind is that square, which is the item that you use, which is the button that you use for items in Bloodborne, is mainly for your healing and any other item that you want to put down here in that slot. As you can see, there's all of those things right there. This life gem, the Radiant Life Gem, and the old Radiant Life Gem, those are all healing items as well. And they heal a little slower, but they heal a little more than the Estus Flask that I have, which is going to be the main one. And your triangle actually switches between one-handing and two-handing your main hand weapon, or what it does is it say, okay, I have the bandit knife here, there. So in my left hand, I have the thief sword. I switch. Just like in Bloodborne. It's the same exact thing, except you can put any weapon you want in your offhand. If you are a left-handed, or if you want to roleplay a left-handed person, you actually can have, say, my flamberge here in my left sword, or in my left hand, and a shield in my right hand. So it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact buttons, except just flip-flopped. So while R1 is going to be your attack for your main hand, L1 is actually the attack if you want to go left-handed fighting. I think that's pretty neat. I've never seen that in any other game other than in the Souls games, where in Bloodborne you have to have the weapon in your right hand or both hands, and you only have the firearm. But with this one, it definitely opens up your options for what you want to do. If you want to definitely like role play or have any sort of setup that you want, and also keep in mind the speed of the weapons is going to be a lot slower than it is. Like, this is one of the medium-sized weapons, and it's about the same speed as the Ludwig Holy Blade. That guy right there, he has the fake Moonlight Greatsword. Yes, there's a fake one that doesn't shoot the beams, and then there's also a real one that shoots the beams. Anyway, let's see. Also, armors. They basically work the same exact way as they do in Bloodborne, except now there's a weight threshold that you need to be wary of. You saw my rings over here. I'll go over those in a minute. With the weight threshold, see in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, you've got the 56.5 out of 95.4. Basically, 95.4 is the maximum amount that I can have. As far as what I've come to understand. And that percentage right there will actually tell you where you are in terms of weight. So the rolls are very, very fast whenever you're very low on your weight. So if I'm going to put on some armor here, see I'm at 25. You can see the roll is just a little bit less. I don't know if I'm going to throw on a little bit more armor. Let's see. Throw that on. That's still going to be about the same. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm at 34.5% weight load capacity, and the roll's still going pretty far, but when you reach 70% or more, you do what the Soulsborne community calls a fat roll. See that? You don't go anywhere near as far, and it's a lot harder to dodge things. So you definitely have to keep in mind where your weight-bearing capacity is. And in order to kind of keep an eye on that, there's one stat that you can actually level up that helps with that, and that is your vitality. So down here, with your vitality, it determines your maximum equipment load, and for everyone that you put in, it will increase that and make it easier for you to carry heavier stuff. Not necessarily in your bag, you can carry as many things as you want in your bag, but it increases it for your actual equipment load. And your rings also add to that, funny enough. Like, they're not even all that heavy, but there are rings that will allow you to increase your load-bearing capacity. Like, without that ring, I'd be at 77.6%. But since I have it on, I'm at 68% for this certain weapon setup and armor that I have. Now, your rings, you can have up to 4 of them at a time, and you cannot upgrade your rings. You have to find them at a +1 or +2 or what have you. And like, as you noticed, I actually have 2 of the same one. I cannot have another one on of the same kind. So you have to basically choose wisely as to which rings that you have and which ones that you want to put on. And like I said, they do carry their own weight, and there's a lot of them that are very, very, very useful. down here, items, it basically works the same setup as it does in Bloodborne. And down here, there are different kinds of arrows. I'm not the kind of character that uses a whole bunch of bows and arrows, but there's also crossbows that you can use, which is down here for the bolts. And you can have up to 3 kinds of weapons on your left and your right hand as you're fighting, as opposed to Bloodborne, where it only has 2. Now, this timer down there that's right to the right-hand side of where my selector is right now, that is my torch timer. Now in Bloodborne, you can find a torch, you can find a hunter's torch that allows you to light up an area indefinitely. Like, you can have it out literally for the entire playthrough, and you're totally fine. You can light up the area. With this game, you actually have to find torches that are scattered around the play area, and they add time. I forget exactly how much time it is per torch, but they add time whenever you find them. So right now I have about 2 hours and 16 minutes worth of light that I can have. This game is very dark in a lot of areas, so you might want to be using that every so often whenever you're setting out, especially if you want to, be careful, take your time, and really get a hang of where you're going to be going. And yeah, as I mentioned before, you can dual wield your weapons, or I can just swap to two-handing this one weapon and put the other one on my back. And there's a nifty little thing that you can do as far as spells go. Spells are a lot more rampant in this game than they are in Bloodborne, where you have to have just certain hunter's tools, and they cost quicksilver bullets to use. In this game, I don't even have anywhere near all the spells in the game. There's a shit ton of spells in this game. There's regular sorceries that shoot the projectiles. You saw them shooting at me earlier with a few of them. There's miracles as well that have their own stat that they work off of. Pyromancies that mostly deal in fire damage, and hexes that you need, faith, which is another stat that you can have in this game. There's a lot more stats in this game. There's, vigor, which is basically your vitality in Bloodborne. There's endurance, which does the same thing. Vitality in itself is different in this one, where it just increases your equipment load. And as with any time you level up, it also increases your health a little bit. Attunement. Now, what attunement does is it allows you to put more spells on your person at a given time. Where with Bloodborne, if you have the different item slots that you can select from and just put the hunter's tools there, with this one you actually have to select. You actually have to bring up your attunement spell or your attunement stat in order to allow yourself to use more spells, so they don't take up those item slots like you saw with my healing items. The higher it is, the more you can use, obviously. 10 is the threshold. At 10, you can have 1 spell on you, and then I believe it increases 1 spell for every 5 attunement after that. So people usually don't go above 30 attunement, but if you want to be the hard-pressed pyromancer or like the massive supporter with the heals, you can definitely go above that, as there's heal spells that you can use in this game. Strength does the same exact thing. Dexterity does the same exact thing. Adaptability. As you can see, it ensures one's survival, boosts agility and various resistances. It boosts the resistances, and what it means by boosting agility is it increases the iframes that you have in your rolls in because in Bloodborne you have certain iframes, but you cannot increase the number of iframes that you have. If you do not know what iframes are, there's a certain time, anytime that you roll or dash in Bloodborne, that you are actually invincible to all kinds of damage. It doesn't matter if a sword goes straight through your skull. You are immune to all damage. You don't get knocked back or anything like that. If you time it perfectly, you can definitely make the perfect amount of use of this. And adaptability in this game actually increases the amount of iframes that you have in your roll. Let's see, intelligence basically works very similarly to arcane, and so does faith, except the difference between the two is intelligence will scale your pyromancy and your hexes, I believe. I could be mistaken. And faith actually increases your miracle damage and healing and stuff, as well as lightning defense and stuff. Yeah, so sorceries and pyromancies. Now, for this game, you cannot just use pyromancies and spells willy-nilly. What you actually have to do is equip a pyromancy flame or a dark pyromancy flame for your spell casting. I do not have any spell casting on this character, so you're not going to be seeing any. But yeah, you basically have them in both hands. It doesn't increase the amount of spells that you can use, but it just depends on which ones you want to use. Like if you want to use hexes, you're going to use the dark pyromancy flame. If you're going to use regular pyromancy, you're going to use the pyromancy flame. And the difference between the hexes and the pyromancy is basically just the kind of magic. That's really all it is. It's a very interesting setup that they have. So that's just for the pyromancies. If you want to do regular spells, I don't think I have a weapon for it, but it will actually, there's a sorcerer's staff that you can get that will allow you to use your sorceries. Now, with the miracles, you need to have a chime, like what I've got right here, and you need to have the spell attuned. And my character's kind of looking at it like, what's going on? Because I don't have any spells. And you only get certain spells that you can use throughout the game, rather than just spamming them with being able to hit up on the D-pad and get yourself more Quicksilver bullets. This one's so much more restrictive, but it's a lot more rewarding, at least in my opinion, whenever you are able to down a boss. And in my opinion, it's also easier to level up in Bloodborne than it is in these ones, just because of how easy it is to die in the Soulsborne, in the Souls games, rather than Bloodborne. Where Bloodborne, you have so much more control over your character. In this one, you still have a lot of control, but there's a little bit of a hesitance a lot of the time. See, the combat is so much slower. There we go. Yeah, you see, you gotta time it perfectly, otherwise you're not really gonna be getting very far as far as combat goes. But on the same token, your enemies are also a lot slower most of the time. Most of the time. Sometimes they can be pretty quickly. Sometimes they can move very quickly, and you have to kind of compensate for that, which is why I got the larger weapon, as you can see here, as the Ultra Greatsword, because the sweeping that it does can pretty much take out most things in 1 or 2 hits. The attack is very, very large, and for a fast enemy who's kind of trying to dodge around me, I'll pretty much get him no problem. Nope, not today. Alright, I guess today. I never did claim to be very good at this game. So that's the basic rundown of the differences between Bloodborne and the Souls games. Now, a lot of the questions that one of the main questions that I get for somebody going from Bloodborne to the Souls games is, which one should I start out with? Should I go with Demon Souls, which is the very first one in the series? Should I go with Dark Souls, or Dark Souls 2? And if you want to go for the whole story, definitely go Demon Souls first. You don't have to play them in order to really understand the story, because they can work as separate entities. You'll probably go into knowing more if you go Dark Souls and then Dark Souls 2. But they do work as separate stories. It's just a different character, not necessarily a different story, just kind of a continuation of it. But there's not enough, it's not like trying to go in a normal sequence of games like it is with other games. This one, you can definitely do them because they stand alone a lot of the time. Like, Bloodborne is just a spiritual successor to the Dark Souls games. So if you want ease of use, I definitely say that Dark Souls 2, which is the one that I'm playing right now, is the easiest out of the first 3 Souls games. Definitely get that one first, try it. I'm playing on Scholar of the First Sin on the PS4, which has a little difference, a couple differences here and there from the regular Dark Souls. It's been remastered, it's been redone, definitely better than the original Dark Souls, and it also includes all the DLC. The AI has been enhanced, the weapon tracking has been enhanced. There's just been so many differences for the better with Scholar of the First Sin. I definitely recommend picking that up. Oh, that was awesome. But if you do want to take it in order, definitely go Demon Souls first, Dark Souls, and then Dark Souls 2, as they still are successors, but again, they can very much stand alone. If you don't worry too much, that's not good. Yeah, okay, whatever. They definitely are spiritual successors. Bloodborne is to the other ones. Boom. Oh, one more thing I should also mention is with the dual wielding that you can do in this game, every single weapon works the same way as it does in Bloodborne as far as information on scaling and with stats. Like, you definitely need certain stats for this game for every weapon that you want to use. Like, see, with this one, as you can see, the strength is 28, the dexterity is 10, and the scaling works the same exact way as it does in Bloodborne. S being the highest, A, B, C, D, and E. And as you upgrade them, they will also upgrade their scaling potential as they go. And the different weapons, like the icon next to it, that does extra magic damage. Right there on the bottom right hand. That does extra fire damage. There's also dark damage and bolt damage. Basically, the different elements and different weapon and different enemies are weak to different ones, just as they are in Bloodborne. And the really cool thing with this game is you can power stance your weapon, which means that you get different move sets. See, here I'm pressing R1 with my greatsword. And now I'm pressing R2 with my greatsword. Now, pressing L1 with my axe, basic attack. Now L2. So, as you can definitely guess, it will, whatever side that you do will do the move sets. Now, what power stancing is whenever you have enough stats, which is, 1.5 times what you need to wield it. So this the greatsword that I have needs 10 dexterity, which means that I need to have 15 dexterity, and it has 28 strength, which means that I need to have like 42 strength. I need 40 strength right now. 1.5 times 28 in order to power stance this weapon with any other weapon. And power stancing changes the move set, and the way that you do that is you just hold triangle for a second. You don't just press it, because then you're just going to go back to two-handing your main hand weapon. Now, you hold triangle a little bit, and your character will kind of shift stances like that. Now, the move set with your R1 and L1, with your R1 and L2 is going to be the same with your main hand. However, if you do the L1 and L2, you're going to attack with both weapons. And it will do all of the damage of both weapons combined. So it's worth it if you know how to time it perfectly. Now, you can do that with almost every single weapon in the game. I'm not sure if I can do it with this one. Yeah, you need to have 1.5 times for both weapons. So yeah, I have both of these as ultra great swords. Fat roll. But like say, okay, yeah, here. All right, I'll power stance with the flamberge. No, I can't because it's not the same weapon type. You need to have the same weapon type to be able to power stance. So this is an ultra great sword. I don't think I have any. I do, but I can't power stance them. So let's see. Let's do the Drenglaic sword. Actually, you know what? Let's do 2 royal great swords because symmetry is awesome. Okay, I guess I can't power stance them. Awesome. Because I don't have the dexterity for it. No. One moment. Yep, there we go. See, any 2 weapons that you can have 1.5 times the stats for, you can power stance, which changes the entire moveset of them for your L1 and L2. See, look at that. Now it's just doing the rapid attack. Most of the builds that you're going to see that do power stancing are going to be the strength builds, the dexterity builds and stuff. You can power stance as a sorcerer, but I don't see the point in it since most of your damage dealing is going to come from your spells. So there's really not a point to try to work towards power stancing as a sorcerer or as a pyromancer. Oh god. I did not see there. Alright, this guy killed me earlier, so I'm gonna get the drop on him. Oh god. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Oh god. Awesome. How are those spells still hitting me? These guys always give me trouble. Fuck those guys, seriously. So yes, I'm just going to play a little bit so you can definitely see how there's different, and I remember there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about, but I don't remember what it was. That's one of those sorceries that you can get. I remember now. So what's really neat about this game is, god damn it. What's really neat about this game is any armor set that you see that is worn by an enemy, you can also get. So if you farm them enough, they'll actually drop like almost every single piece of their armor and every single weapon that they carry. Not everyone will always drop their weapons, but you can always get it somewhere. Same with the spells. If you if you come across a lot of sorceries and you see one that's using something that you might want to try out, you're going to get it at some point in the game. This isn't like one of those games where, like in Bloodborne, where you're going to see some of the armor sets that you're never going to be able to get. Where with this one, it's very different, and you're going to get like almost everything that you can find. Oh, also, I'm sure that you've noticed with my maximum health, it's been dropping every single time that I die. That's going to stop at 50%. And basically what that means is I am becoming more and more hollow because I am an undead. Attractive, isn't she? So the more that you die, the more hollow you become, and the more ugly you become too. So like the first time I died, I'm not going to be missing as much hair. I'm not going to be quite as messed up as I am right now. And by the way, that glow is just a rejuvenation that I have for my ring. It's replenishing health. But anyway, it turns you more and more undead, and the game gets progressively harder the more times in a row that you die. Now, the way to reverse this is you use a thing called human effigies, and what that does is it reverses your hollowing and turns you back to human. Much more attractive. And I'm also back to 100% health, or get back to 100% health. So I can rest at this bonfire and replenish all of my health without having to go back to like a hunter's dream or a main hub or anything like that. And that basically makes moving around a lot easier. And say if you go and you kill something, or you just barely kill something and you're right next to a bonfire, you can just go back and heal yourself right up without having to waste any Estus. Yeah, and as you can see, from my inventory, there are a ton of weapons in this game, which opens it up a lot more. And that's something I was a little annoyed with when it came to Bloodborne, is it didn't allow you to use a whole ton of weapons, but the weapons that you had basically had two forms, and it was really fun. Also, shields are very much a thing in this game. Shields are very much a thing in this game. You don't always have to use them, but they work very well if you're able to kind of, if you're going for that kind of build or that kind of role play. Like, I like doing the dual wielding, but I definitely started off using just a sword and a shield, which is very needed for a lot of parts of this game because things will hit you like a truck if you don't know how to avoid them or are not very good at avoiding them. One thing that's also really neat, you can do dual shields. There are a lot of builds in this game that you can actually just do two shields, because you can also attack. That's an attack. That's a parry. That's the only way to parry in this game is by using a shield or by using a weapon. So say if I wanted to parry, that didn't work. Hold on a sec. So to parry in this game, it's up and R1. You kind of step forward and then you deflect an attack, and you need to have your timing down absolutely perfectly as the sword is coming to you. It's not as big of a window as it is in Bloodborne, where you just kind of shoot them while they're attacking you. You just need to hit that, and if you time it perfectly, when their weapon comes right at you, right there, then it'll deflect and they'll fall down, and you have a huge opening to be able to follow up with a riposte. And it does tons of damage. It doesn't always kill right away, but it will do an absolute crap ton of damage if you can master parrying. And there's a lot of builds in this game that focus around parrying. There's a lot of builds in this game that focus around using two shields to do your attacking, which is, I find, really interesting, and I kind of want to try to do that at some point. I should probably put a helmet on. Let me think. What else was I going to go over? Okay, I think that's pretty much some of the main differences between Bloodborne and Dark Souls. Most of the items have been replaced or renamed. Like the Homeward Bone is basically your Bold Hunter's Mark. Okay, so your Estus Flask is your new Blood Vial, except it's a lot slower and you only get a couple of them at a time as you upgrade them. Different healing items. This is a kind of antidote. It cures poison and restores a lot of HD, and it takes a lot longer to use. Same with the Dragon Charm. Let's see. Your Dark Sign is your Hunter's Mark, I think it is. I've never used it, so I don't really know the name of it, but yeah, it's you lose all of your souls and you return your last bonfire, same as the other one. Your fire bombs are basically grenades. You've got, let me see. Your prism stone are your shining coins. Your rusted coins, you can basically use those in order to find items a lot quicker, so it increases your discovery. Your rotten pine resin adds poison attack, which is a new thing. Dark pine resin adds dark damage, and you've got charcoal pine resin, which is basically your fire paper. And you also have regular pine resin, which I believe I've used all of mine, so I don't have any right now, which is basically your bolt paper. Works exactly the same way. Your alluring skull is your pungent blood cocktail or whatever.